Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C. We've had rain this week. It's been cloudy, but today it's a bright, sunshiny day, as the weather reporters were saying this morning. We sort of had September in reverse, right? We started off with cool and rainy. Now we're warm and sunny. Who knows what October will bring, but we're going to enjoy this fabulous day today. And I'm so happy to welcome you to Let's Talk on WIN TV. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, and I think we're going to have a very exciting, informative, and educational episode of Let's Talk today. One of our first guests is Kwesi Neblett, president of Community Projects Incorporated and the creator of hashtag Prostate Check Challenge, Black Prostate Check Challenge. And he's going to share all the important news and information about a campaign and how it's helping raise awareness about prostate health in the Black community. Also looking forward to having a conversation with Aswad Thomas, Vice President of the Alliance for Safety and Justice and National Director of Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. Mr. Thomas is going to discuss the inaugural Crime Survivors Speak March on Washington. Yes, it's a march on Washington that's coming up in a couple of days. And this event is a crucial part of the new victims' rights movement. And Aswad will be sharing how you can get involved. And lastly, we have Rosemary Suggs Evans from the DC Department of Small and Local Business Development, who's going to be talking to us about the things that I think most of us enjoy doing. It's eating, but she's talking about dining, Dine All Night, a celebration of local restaurants happening from September 19th to September 29th, right here in the nation's capital. This event is a companion to the well-established Art All Night and celebrates the amazing culinary scene in our city. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. But before we start our discussions today, I want to remind you to support the Washington Informer. We've got one more month of being 59. And next thing you all know, in October, we are going to be 60 years old. I was talking to someone the other day when they were saying how they were celebrating a friend whose anniversary was 30 years. And yeah, 30 years is a long time for our businesses, particularly in our community, to survive. But we will be turning 60 in October. And it's been a long road. You'll hear more about it. We have some events that we're putting together that we want to share with the community and invite you all out. But we want you to continue to stay informed. And to do that, as you know, 60 years of printing the Washington Informer. So we hope that you have picked up the latest issue of the Informer. We want you to stay informed about our latest news and events in our community. Of course, you know, we deliver to about 600 locations throughout the DMV. So if you want one of those who likes to kind of thumb through the pages, we've got that for you. But if you prefer digital access, you can visit us at WashingtonInformer.com. Again, that's WashingtonInformer.com, where you can read online. And we hope that you will consider becoming a subscriber to our publication directly in your inbox. That's where the paper will be sent. And all you have to do is sign up. You see that we have a couple of newsletters that you can sign up for as well. Insert your email address. That's it. No PayPal, no credit cards, no anything. Just sign up, and we would love to send the Washington Informer to you every week. But WIN Daily comes out every day, which is our daily newsletter on the news that we cover on throughout the DMV and nationally as well, and a little bit of international news. So whatever you want, we've got just about. And if we don't have it, we want you to consider reaching out to us. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can do that to share your news ideas. And that's it. News at WashingtonInformer.com. Thank you, team, for putting that up there. So if you have a story idea that you'd like to pitch, especially a good news story, reach out to us at news@WashingtonInformer.com. So as you watch today, don't forget to share this broadcast on your social media platforms and spread the word about the Washington Informer. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, I don't think we call it Twitter anymore, right? It's X. And I don't know, some of y'all might be X and X, but at any rate, X, Threads, Nextdoor, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Wherever you are, we are, but we'd rather really like to be in your inbox. We'd like to send the Informer to you in your email every single day. And that's where we become good, close family members. And speaking of YouTube, subscribe to our channel at Washington Informer TV, where you can catch up on any of the Let's Talk episodes that you may have missed. Your support helps us to continue valuable news and information for our community, and we thank you for supporting the Washington Informer and for watching us today here on Let's Talk. So before we bring on our first guest, let's catch our weekly news broadcast by Curtis Knowles.
This is Win TV News, bringing you the news that matters.
Billionaire DC philanthropist David Rubenstein has pledged $10 million to the Smithsonian Campaign for Our Shared Future to support the National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. The donation takes the zoo well on its way to its $25 million campaign goal to fund its giant panda conservation program. Since giant pandas first arrived at the National Zoo in 1972, they have been one of the zoo's biggest attractions, drawing in an estimated 2 million visitors a year before the zoo's last 2 giant pandas left late last year. In May, the zoo announced a 10-year research and breeding agreement with the China Wildlife Conservation Association. The zoo will welcome a new pair of giant pandas by the end of the year and chosen to breed based on their genetics, health, and temperament. The National Park Service said that there are currently 9 public restrooms at the National Mall, but none east of 15th Street, necessitating long walks for some visitors. The National Capital Planning Commission will soon review plans from the Park Service to add 12 new public restrooms and replace 3 existing, quote, comfort stations, including 4 on the Grassy Mall itself. In a conceptual design study to be presented to the National Capital Planning Commission on October 3rd, the map shows that most toilets will be located in heavily trafficked areas, including near the Lincoln Memorial and Constitution Gardens. National Park Service spokesman Mike Litters said that construction for the new restaurant facilities will be done in phases over the period of many years and based on funding availability. Millions of Americans can now renew their passports online instead of mailing the State Department paper documents with a check. The State Department announced Wednesday that its online system is now open after months of limited testing and years of pilots. The State Department estimates that up to 5 million Americans can use the service annually, with last year the department renewing 9.6 million passports. The department closed the tool after it reached a certain application threshold, making changes based on customer feedback. The state also previously piloted online applications in 2022, and currently only adult passports can be renewed online, and only those living in the U.S., either in state or territory, can use the service.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate all this latest news. Some of the news that we bring to you on Let's Talk, you may not find in the Washington Informer. And, it's when we pull these stories together. So we just want to make sure that you have access to all of our news outlets so that you can stay up to date on everything that we can present that's happening in the community. Oh, I just have to think before I get to Kwesi, you all may see this little bobblehead. I like to put things in my background. And, this was the Nationals. They had an HBCU day not too long ago at the stadium. And so it's really cool. I think I commend the Nationals for recognizing, Events DC actually, for recognizing HBCUs. And if you all don't go to a Nationals game, I'm promoting it. I love baseball. So I thought this was kind of cute. And as you all know, as I'm a hybrid, I am a Hampton student and a Howard grad. So HU or HI and HU will battle it out tomorrow at, Audi Field. It's going to be a great game. I wish I could be there. So even if you're not a Howard student or a Hampton student, you don't want to miss what's going to happen at Audi Field. The 2 teams will meet. I think last year Howard lost, if I'm not mistaken, but all bets are on Howard winning this year. So we'll see. Just wanted to bring that up because it looks like it's going to be a fun time here in DC. So now to bring on our first guest, Kwesi Neblett. He is the president of Community Projects Incorporated and the mastermind behind the hashtag Black Prostate Check Challenge, a campaign that aims to raise awareness about prostate health in the Black community. Kwesi, before we talk, let's look at this video.
I'm a 38-year-old black man. My father has late-stage prostate cancer, and I'm finding out and learning that black men are 1 in 4 likely to have prostate cancer and have it in late stages without knowing. So let's get together and let's start getting tested and getting early warning signs about this prostate cancer with the hashtag Black Prostate Check Challenge. Join me and let's get our prostates checked.
Welcome to Let's Talk, Kwesi. How are you?
I'm good, Denise. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I mean, it's such a important topic, and one that we don't really see too many young Black men talking about. And so I want to start off with that. I mean, I think it's great, the campaign that you have, but what inspired you to launch this campaign?
Actually, a lot of times when people say tragedy or circumstances, usually is an inspiration to a lot of things. And unfortunately, my father, Charles Neblett, PhD, he contracted it, prostate cancer, and we found out he was stage 4 prostate cancer this year that metastasized, and that kind of got as a family as a whole, we wanted to jump in, and I decided that it was upon me to make sure that he gets the best care possible. So upon us looking for treatment, us looking for doctors and making sure he had the right things in place, we started finding out we had more questions than answers. And then as we started rolling in the thick of things, our family realized that my father, Charles Neblett, was in a deficit, because we found out that black men with prostate cancer had a higher death rate, had a higher contraction rate, and we was behind the ball. We didn't have enough black men in the tests and the studies, and as we started working with like Dr. Clayton Yates of Johns Hopkins, we understood that from him, he broke down the ideas and the things that black men have a genetic marker that it makes us more susceptible to cancer, to prostate cancer, that we did not understand. So as we went through this, we realized that there's more black men than just my father that's going to be dealing with this problem. And
it's funny, if I can cut you off 1 second, just to say that not too long ago, I met a gentleman who was a prostate cancer survivor. We were at a community event, and he said to me, Denise, if I threw a rock in the air, I guarantee you that whatever man it hits when it comes down has had or will have prostate cancer, which meant that could have been 3 out of 4. And are those the statistics that you're looking at, that you've seen as far as its prevalence?
There's different numbers from different agencies, but with the Johns Hopkins, it's actually 1 out of 6 black men. And so when we look at it, we see the disparities in healthcare. We see the disparities in patient care, and also when it comes to the outreach to black men and getting from the doctors into the patient decision making. It's a very, very, very big steep hill. And so right now, what we are looking at is the coming together with the hashtag to get their conversations going, not only with black men together, but also get it with the scientists, the doctors, the clinics, getting it with the policymakers, and getting it with the voices of the people in the community that are affected. Because it's not just the black men that are affected by it; it's their families, it's their loved ones, it's their friends, it's the community at large that is being affected, because the average cost annually for stage 4 prostate cancer for treatment is $92,344. I personally don't know any black man in my circle that has almost $100,000 sparingly for that type of treatment. So we understand, because of that most treatments, and a lot of treatments that's not covered by the FDA, is not covered by insurance.
One of the things that I reflect on back in the day, and we have Howard University radio station, for example, used to have Tom Joyner. I mean, he was all over the country, right? I don't know if you know
Right.
that name, but
Yes.
and I think it was every June, maybe it
Mm.
was October. I'm not sure, but it was May. Okay, we probably should have done it every month, but was take a man. What is it? Take your father to the doctor, or take your husband to the
Mm.
doctor, or just trying to encourage people to continue to get checked for prostate cancer. And like I said, you're a young man. I'm assuming that you are. At least you look like
I
a young man.
thank you.
Um, I mean, what are they saying about when prostate exams should begin? And how will this campaign really promote men getting screened?
Well, prostate cancer screenings should start around 35 to 38. And because what we're seeing is that we have a lot of false positives in black men when it comes to getting their prostates checked. So 35 to 38 and being very consistent with those things is what is necessary. Because once we see it, the earlier the better. So we can get prostate checked today and then wait 5 years or 6 years. We got to stay consistently throughout each year to at least have the prostate check. So making sure that we're on top of it and we get that early detection. But to what you just spoke about was how is what we're doing is going to bring about change, and it's the fact that we're trying to get the most updated information, and we're trying to change the narrative, not just the screening, not just getting tested, because that's a part of it. But a
Hmm.
major issue is we have to get into the studies. We have to get into the studies of it, because if we have a unique disposition when it comes to prostate cancer, we can't afford to allow other people to do all the studies. But our genetic markers are very unique to us, and our studies is going to read very differently. Our treatment plans are going to be should be very different, because if we're doing the same treatment plan as someone else, but we're contracting it, we're developing it in our bodies, and our bodies reacting to it differently, it does us no good to go off of one study. It's like someone having a different test, and we're taking their answers. No, we have to get involved with the studies. We have to make sure that our position is clear, what we need, and then we also have to make sure that we are getting the funding to make sure that not only we got the funding for the studies, which President Biden he produced a lot of funding for now studies for cancer, but we don't have money for the treatment. So it
Mm,
doesn't. So
exactly.
we have too many men right now with
Like
prostate
a double
cancer
whammy. They can't
that
afford to get treated.
they can't afford to get the treatment, but yet they already know they have cancer. So what about the people who do have cancer? And so that's what we have to do. We have to burn the candle on both ends, so in order to get everything done. And so
Let's
that's the
talk about
people.
the Yeah, let's talk about the studies for a minute, because we're very present down at the Congressional Black Caucus. We had a great sort of incidental, a coincidental run-in with a conversation with the folks from NIH, who are part of the minority health division, that are talking about how to get these more African Americans or Black folks involved in these clinical trials and studies and what have you. We don't do that, and there are reasons. NIH says we understand
Absolutely.
why people don't want to participate. So, one, I mean, are you aware currently of any studies, and how can or what else would you say about how Black men can find them and participate?
Well, I'm aware there are studies.
Okay.
However, we don't have there's not studies directly for African American men or Black men in general. So that's the key. It's not about just
Mm,
getting and but the thing is we have to do a grassroots type of thing. We can't just get Black men involved. Black men are the focal point, but it's the Black families, it's the Black peoples, Black women. We have because Black women are known to go to the doctor more. Um, than Black men. However, we need everybody in place to where we can say, okay, cool. Every year we talk about it all on a regular basis. We have conversations with the men in the families and hey, all right, there's a study. We need to be in a study. We need to push for doctors and different organizations to do the study for us. We all like Dr. Yates out of out of Johns Hopkins. He is a doctor that's trying to do those things. He's trying to develop these things and get more focus on African American men and Black men as a whole. So that's the push, is to put ourselves in a position to where we can have these studies for ourselves, get the empirical evidence and the data that we need to where we can make better informed decisions, figure out which treatments not only work for us, but it's going, because the thing is the key is not to just to get rid of the cancer. The key is to holistically, as the whole body and that person, is to heal them. Because if you kill the cancer, but the body's too weak to survive, the body dies as well. So we don't need to just kill the cancer. We need to treat the whole person. Their mental is going to be affected. Their spiritual is going to be affected. Their nutrition, everything is going to be affected. Everything. So we have to address all the aspects of that person, because those things also negatively affect the cancer. So if we don't put ourselves in a position to where those people are in good health as a whole, what happens is we know that stress exacerbates it. We know that not getting sleep exacerbates it. Not getting the right nutrients exacerbates the problem.
Exactly.
So that's the thing that we have to start looking forward to and focusing on.
Well, on the flip side of that, because you talked about the cost of treatment, and so what does the campaign, or what is the campaign doing to recommend either to policymakers or healthcare providers to support treatment?
I think they need to broaden the span of what the healthcare actually will take care of. Because if you have healthcare insurance and then they only deal with what the FDA approves, but the FDA doesn't approve other cancer treatments and other types of treatments that allows the person to get a comprehensive medical plan, what ends up happening is that the patient has to foot the bill. And these medical plans, we all know that medical billing is over exaggerated. They're inflating all the prices to where we can't really afford it anyway. But the goal is to get these policymakers and get people in the government, whether it be state, federal, or local, to push for more money that's going to be in the treatment plan, to where the person is not having to foot the bill for a large amount of money for something that they know they can't cover.
Yeah, we're about out of time, but I just want to say that if there's anybody that really could be a good messenger for this, is your dad. I mean, I want folks to know that, despite his health condition, that he is still with us, and that you're working with him to continue. But then, he spent so much of his life supporting all the things that we need in the civil rights movement, working with civil rights leaders, conveying the message of freedom and justice for all. So if you could just, in a really short, if you can, I know he's lived a full life, but, tell us how he's doing, and give us just a little bit of, I know he performed with the Freedom Singers. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, he's my father, Charles D. Neblett, PhD. He was in the civil rights movement starting out in the early 60s. He was with the SNCC Freedom Singers, with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He was a singer, activist, fundraiser. He was a leader within the community in the civil rights movement. He spent the span of 60 years being a civil rights activist. And so he was the likes of John Lewis, Harry Belafonte, Fannie Lou Hamer, you name it. He's been in that circle and being good friends, which most of, if not all of them, have been my godparents. And now he has been passing down this tremendous honor of his legacy to his children. So what we have done is, because he wants to expand the name of his name associated with the prostate, because he wanted to bring awareness, and we wanted to do that as a family. And we started this hashtag Black Prostate Challenge with a few strong supporters of it. And now he is raising funds, because that's a key thing that we have to do, is raise funds. And he has a fundraiser with the Give a Hand under Charles D. Neblett to make sure that he gets the comprehensive treatment that he deserves. He's poured into this country. He's poured into this community. He has done more than enough to be blessed with the honor of he's dying of natural causes, not cancer, but to live a full life and to smile back at his life and to see his children and grandchildren be proud of him, and as a community as a whole to get the flowers while he's alive.
Well, if I can just say on behalf of Let's Talk and the Washington Informer, Kwesi, just give your dad our regards. Tell him we thank him for blessing us with your presence here today and for spreading the word. And again, it's Black Prostate
Check Challenge.
Check Challenge. Black Prostate Check Challenge. We want everybody to remember that. Go to Black Prostate Check. Even when you go get your prostate exam, just put it on your social media. You know, Black Prostate Check Challenge, and to say that you have actually checked it and that you're going to work to support some of the initiatives that we've heard here today. So I want to thank you so much for being with us. Keep us up to date on how things are going.
Will do. Thank you for having me, Denise.
My pleasure. Okay, take care.
You too.
Bye-bye. So we're going to continue that conversation as time goes on, because I think, you know, we talk a lot about breast cancer, but prostate cancer, I'm glad that Kwesi was here to share that with us. And we certainly want to communicate to all those in the community to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. At least get checked. But I think when he talks about, we're going to kind of look into some of these studies. We're going to bring you some more information and maybe even bring him back on to figure out how we can, as my daddy used to say, if it is to be, it's up to me, and no one can save us, for us, but us. So, you know, that's what we got to do. Anyway, I'm happy now to bring on our next guest, Aswad Thomas, who's the Vice President of the Alliance for Safety and Justice and the National Director of Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. Welcome to Let's Talk. That was a lot.
No, thank you so much for having me on today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So we've got a march coming to Washington, D.C. on September the 24th. Tell us about it.
Yeah, you know, on Tuesday, 24th, thousands of survivors. We have over 50 buses from across the country that will be traveling to D.C. For the first ever Crime Survivor Speak March on Washington, to really demand a right to heal and a new approach to public safety. So we're going to be marching from the National Mall to the Capitol at Union Square for a rally and a candlelight vigil. So
when you say survivors, Aswad, who are you talking about? The families? Who are those survivors that we should expect to see here in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, so Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, we are a national network of over 200,000 survivors from across the country. That includes parents that have lost children to violence. That include victims of domestic violence, victims of sexual assault, victims of human trafficking, and victims of gun violence, like me, are part of this network to share our stories, to heal together, but most importantly, to advocate for a new approach to public safety. So we're bringing together a wide range of experiences and people from all across the country that experience crime and violence, but come to DC to make sure our voices are heard in our nation's capital.
You know, one of the sad things, but the realities, Reverend Jackson is having his own health challenges right now. But one of the things he used to do when he would go to high schools around the country is to ask young people, how many of you all know someone or have had someone in your family, your friends, who are victims of gun violence? And 90% of the young people would raise their hands, and that's probably that has not changed. Yep. Right. And so here you are involved with this project. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, for me, I'm a former basketball player. In 2009, I had just graduated from college. I was the first male of my family to ever graduate from college. I had signed with a
Where'd you
sports
go?
agent. I went to Elms College in Massachusetts. And so
Okay.
my nickname was the Black Steve Nash. So if you follow basketball, I'm known as the Black Steve Nash. But, you know, I had a very good college career and was on my way to play professional basketball overseas in Europe. But unfortunately, 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave to go to Europe, I was shot twice in my back while leaving a corner store in my neighborhood at the time in Hartford, Connecticut. And, you know, that incident ended my professional basketball career in nearly my life. But just like so many victims that look just like me and you, you know, after that experience, I never received any services or resources to help me heal and deal with that incident. And during that recovery process, you know, law enforcement came to visit me several times. And each time they came to visit me, it was always about the case. They never asked me how I was doing. They never told me about any victim services. They never even told me that there was a victim advocate in their department that's supposed to work with victims like myself. So my family and I never received no help after that incident.
And are you saying that these services existed, but they never shared that information with you?
Yeah, so every state had a victim compensation program. You know, if you lost a loved one to a homicide, for example, there are resources available to help with funeral and burial expenses. If you are a victim of domestic violence and you need to seek counseling and therapy, there's a program in every state called the Victim Compensation Program. The challenge with that program is that we did a study. We found out that 96% of crime victims do not access that state's victim compensation program because most people don't know about it. Even if you know about it, this long application process. You know, there are some crazy policies. You know, for example, in order to be eligible for this compensation program, in some states, you have to file a police report within 48 hours after becoming a victim. Right. And even if you meet that threshold, in some states, you may have a year or two to apply for the program. And that's expected as you're healing from violence. So most victims do not access support from programs like the Crime Victim Compensation Program. That's why we are doing this march to really elevate that issue in addition to others as well at the national level.
Wow, that's you know, and with there's so much focus. I was talking to someone the other day, but there's so much focus on the crime itself, not enough on prevention, and definitely, clearly, based on what you're sharing with us, not enough with the after effects. What happens to the victim? What happens to the families? You know, there's a long list of stories that come, which you're certainly bringing my attention to. So, how did this idea, is this the first time? Well, it says the inaugural march. So where did this idea come from?
Yeah, you know what really inspired this idea of this Crime Survivor Speak March on Washington and bring together like those victims from across the country. You know, we all share that common experience of being victims and not getting any help, no matter what your victimization was. And the idea of this march is because we have a dual crisis in this country. We have a public safety crisis, and then we also have a mass incarceration crisis. Right. And people think, you know, this crisis around mass incarceration is like totally different from this crisis around safety. But it turns out they are actually the same crisis. And the solutions to both of those crises is literally staring us in the face. They have been staring us in the face for decades, you know, because there are people who got hurt and never got any help, just like me. Right. And there are people who got hurt and ended up in the justice system, just like the teenager that had shot me. And so we can actually solve, you know, the mass incarceration crisis. We actually can solve the public safety crisis by listening to crime victims and listening to their experiences and having that inform what public safety policy should look like. And it's more trauma recovery centers, is more services and resources to help people heal. It's more about rehabilitation. It's also more about when people are coming out of the justice system that they're able to access housing and jobs. Those are the things that have been proven to stop repeat cycles of violence, and we need to invest in those things for our families and our communities.
So I'm really thrilled that you're here, to talk about this and what you're involved in. I mean, sometimes, and I hate to say this, I mean, but from a media standpoint, we may, or other news organizations may, cover an incident, right? And it's kind of hard sometimes to knock on the door afterwards of a victim to say, how are you feeling? Right. And whether they are even willing to talk to or to tell their story. You folks are coming here to tell their stories, but can you maybe give us some ideas or advice on how do we get victims to tell their stories?
I think one of the most important things, you have to actually provide spaces to listen to crime victims. At Crime Survivor Safety and Justice, there are three things that we do. We listen to victims and survivors of violence. We bring them together to provide that peer-to-peer support that we all need after we experience any type of trauma or violence. We have to being able to help listen to those experiences, and that should be driving what our policies and programs look like. Our organization is called Crime Survivors Speak for a reason. We provide that platform for survivors to share their stories, and just by doing that, we've been able to pass over 100 legislative bills across the country that have changed victim compensation programs in several states, that have established these 54 of these trauma recovery centers. Just imagine if there was a center in a community where someone experienced crime and violence, they can literally just go right into that community center and get access to free counseling and therapy, get access to support to help them heal or recover from that experience without having to pay a fee for those services. So we've established these trauma recovery centers, and also we've kind of helped to elevate what public safety looks like to us. Is providing those spaces for people to share those stories, and we do that by bringing survivors to their state capital across the country. Now we are organizing thousands of survivors from 30 states to come to our nation's capital to really uplift what safety looks like to us, and it's that right to heal, and is this new approach to public safety instead of being tough on crime.
Do you have any examples of model programs that you think need to be replicated, that you can highlight and say to states, this is what works?
Yeah, I think the one is what I just talked about, is a trauma recovery center model. So, when I was a victim of gun violence, I was shot twice in my back. I was discharged from that hospital back into the same community where I lived, right? And so my doctors told me about the physical challenges that I would have, but they never mentioned the psychological effects of being a victim of the PTSD, the anxiety, the flashbacks, the nightmares. Nobody prepared me for that experience of being a victim, and in law enforcement, didn't provide any help. All of the local and government funded agencies that get funding to support victims, they didn't provide any help. The only organization that provided help to me, and is consistent with so many victims across the country, it was an organization of mothers who've all lost their children to gun violence. The only organization that came knocking on my door to provide any type of support. And that organization and those type of organizations that exist all across the country are doing such amazing work, but the majority of them don't have funding. They're mostly all volunteer based. They're using their 401k. They provided all of these services, but we're not investing in those community based organizations, and that's what we need to do. That's why we are, bringing over 200 of those grassroots organizations to DC next week.
We're going to put the flyer up again, but again, give us the details of the march.
Yeah, so September 24th, we're going to be starting our march at 10 a.m. At the National Mall. So join us on 7th Street Northwest in Madison for our march. Then we're going to be marching up to the Capitol for our rally and our candlelight vigil that will start at 11 o'clock. But stay tuned. Don't leave after that rally and that candlelight vigil, because we're going to go back to the National Mall at 12 o'clock for a healing and a music festival. We have a few of our celebrity friends that will be joining us for this event. So hopefully you all can join us on this march and rally, which is much more than a march. This is right, elevating what safety look like to crime victims, and it's this idea that all survivors should have a right to heal, and we want a new approach to public safety, and that's what we are calling for as part of this new victims' rights movement.
Well, we're going to take a close look at what's happening here in the DMV, and I probably need you as a resource for that as well, to see what we could be doing better. We know that there, particularly in the community where we're located here in Washington, D.C., where there's a high rate of violence. And again, a lot of times we don't look at the victims or the survivors. We don't even know, we know someone survived, but we don't know the story. And so I am just really excited that you all are doing this march, bringing attention to survivors, and have some recommendations on what can be done to actually heal our community. So thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And as we say is, when survivors speak, change happens, and looking forward to seeing you all marching with us on Tuesday.
Wonderful, Aswad. Thank you so very much. Have a good one. Okay. So, boy, that's I'm sure that all of us can maybe look at a neighbor, a friend, a child, a loved one who actually did survive a violent crime, and just trying to figure out how they're being taken care of. I always, as we go through neighborhoods and look at the guys in the wheelchairs that been paralyzed, and other situations, and you just wonder, what is your story, and are they being able to access these resources? So again, one story leads to many, many more, and we're going to continue to tell those stories as much as we can. So I thank our guests for being with us today to see what we can do here at Let's Talk at the Washington Informer to heal our community. But now we're going to talk to Rosemary Suggs Evans, the fabulous, who is really going to talk to us about something that we want to have fun with. And that's Art All Night and Dine All Night, a 10-day celebration of local restaurants from September the 19th to the 29th. Woo, I'm getting hungry, Rosemary, just thinking about it. I should say that Rosemary is the director of the DC Department of Small and Local Business Development. And, but, just remember, dine all night. That's what's important. Rosemary, welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you for having me.
So, a lot of people know Art All Night is a great, event. It's in all 8 wards. It's probably one of the safest nights in DC because everybody's out on the street having a good time. But talk about Dine All Night. How did this become a part of the activity?
Yeah. So Dine All Night was initiated last year in 2023. And it was a way in which, Mayor Bowser wanted us and gave us the charge to really focus on increasing the support to our restaurants in the district. And, as we all know, there was some struggles during COVID, and our restaurants were, some were able to come out of it, some were not. But for those that were able to come out of that with the support through the district and other federal government support, we wanted to find a way to raise those stakes, right? And supporting and creating the creation of Dine All Night was the way to do that. Because when you're thinking of, the culinary field, that is artistry as well. And so we wanted to support, our chefs and our local restaurants and our mixologists as part of Art All Night.
So is it a one-night event?
Dine All Night is not.
I saw that. I'm sorry. What am I thinking? I gave the dates.
Yeah, we kicked it off yesterday on the 19th.
Right.
And it goes through the 29th. And it's our lead in to Art All Night, which will be September 27th and 28th. So yeah, it's a multi-day event.
So from the news reports I've heard so far, the Asian Art All Night, Dine All Night was a big success. I understand. That was last night. Is that correct?
Yeah, we kicked it off with the Asian night in the Asian night market, which was at Chinatown and Lotus Plaza, and it was a fabulous event from the kickoff to going back at 3 p.m. and eating and tasting a lot of food and music and artistry. I mean, it was what I really enjoy about it most is that there's something for everyone. So you saw every type of, man, woman, child, family, girlfriends, friends hanging out. Like it was just wonderful.
So what's next? I mean, because that there you have an Asian theme. So are there themes for these nights or what?
No, what we did was we partnered with the Mayor's Office of Asian Pacific Islanders Affairs to launch an Asian night market. And so what we did is just paired that with Dine All Night for the kickoff. But there are plenty of restaurants. If folks go to dcartallnight.org, there's a list of restaurants across all 8 wards that they can go and participate and try food from any genre that they haven't tried or would like to try.
How were you able to recruit the restaurants to participate?
Well, restaurants participated last year, and many of them, it was a great opportunity for them and for folks to learn about their restaurant, really. So we reached out this year, and based on the success of last year, many of the restaurants asked about it and wanted to sign up for Dine All Night. And so that's how we, it's kind of when things happen and it goes well and it's successful, it, just gets bigger and bigger. And so we have been fortunate to do that, for that to happen. But it's also with the partnership of our main streets that are promoting restaurants within their commercial corridors.
Some might say there's some areas of the city that have a deficit of restaurants. But, I know that this probably, or maybe I should ask you that question. How does this help to promote more restaurants to come to certain communities or, it's tough. So what does this do to build sort of the restaurant businesses in the city?
Well, I think in a couple of ways, right? It for those restaurants that are existing, it's a way to attract more folks to come visit that restaurant. So it's promotion of that restaurant that they may not get on a regular basis. They're focused on, getting good food out to residents. And so now it's a way for, district residents and even people that are just visiting the district to learn about that restaurant and say, hey, I haven't tried that, but I want to try it. But also for folks that are not formally having a restaurant, maybe not a brick and mortar, maybe we're doing some catering and seeing, I think, the commitment of not just the district government, but also private partners, nonprofits supporting our small and local businesses and wanting to raise them up and doing that in a way where we're focusing 2 days on highlighting our artists and our creatives through the Art All Night events. But we also added to that by having that 10 days of Dine All Night as a precursor.
And all night, does that mean all night?
Well, it's what your definition of all night is. So yes, many of our events go to 2, 3 in the morning. Now, in my age group, which I'm not going to say what that is, that is certainly all night.
Yes.
Now, my goddaughter who's at Howard, it may not be all night. So it may just be getting started, but there's something for everyone.
Yeah, I think a lot of us kind of remember those days back in the day. There are a couple of places that you could get breakfast all night, right?
Mm-hmm.
After all right, I'm telling myself, so I won't go there. But But yeah, that's pretty cool. And are they coming up with special menus that sort of highlight their participation in this?
Absolutely. We have restaurants that will either have a actual special menu, they may have a special menu item, they may have a mocktail or cocktail, they may have a special dessert item. But all of those items will be called the Owly. So again, when you go on to dcartallnight.org and you take a look at all the restaurants that we'll be promoting during Dine All Night, you will see what they are going to have, whether it's what their Owly is. Is it a meal? Is it a mocktail? Is it a dessert? Or is it all three?
And when you say Owly, you're saying
We call it the Owly, the Night Owly.
Owly. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. And so before we go, I want to know a little bit more about your office, because I know you support small businesses. It's the go-to for the district. But tell us about your office.
Yeah. So our
the DC
office
Department
is,
of Small and Local Businesses. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And as we refer to it as DSLBD.
Right.
And our office is focused on the development and retention of small and local businesses. So we work with businesses at any stage that they are in, whether it's conception, whether they've just getting started, or whether they've been around for a long time and need assistance. And we provide a lot of training and technical assistance. We provide grant programs, whether for our retail businesses in the commercial corridor, it's our robust retail grant program, whether it's our Aspire program, which is getting ready to finish out through a pitch program, or a dream grant program, which is also, we have a dream Battle of the Wards pitch program that is going to happen this Saturday at MLK Library. We want to focus on ensuring that anyone that is interested in starting their own business, or anyone that is interested in an idea and helping someone develop that idea, we want them to know that we are the place to come to, and we're going to support you in that the whole way through.
You know, we talk about the loss of restaurants and businesses in the DMV during and post COVID, but I'm about to make a statement, but I want to make sure that you verify the statement that we had the creation of a lot of small, independent, creative type of businesses. It seems like a lot of folks that were locked up in their houses or their apartment buildings or what have you created something that said, this is going to be a business for me. Have you seen that in the district?
Absolutely. Whether, it's been folks that, during COVID, it was something that was a hobby or something that they did just to kind of, relax and de-stress, and realized it could become a business. And oftentimes, folks, our small business owners, they can, whatever it is that they're focused on doing, they do it very well. And we want to help and add to that, and making sure that that foundation, that back office and all the things that they need to ensure the success of selling that product or selling that item is there. So yeah, we have seen that, during COVID and in the early aftermath, that, some of the businesses closed, but we saw many more entrepreneurs being spurred. Right now we have, over 2,300 restaurants. Many of those are small business owner, family-owned restaurants. So I think, DC is, and this is all thanks to Mayor Bowser, has created an environment that supports their small businesses and entrepreneurs like no other.
So, Rosemary Suggs Evans, I want to thank you for being with us today. That's some great news to see that these small businesses have been incubated, they're growing, and we want to make sure that they're thriving, not just surviving, but thriving. And I'm glad that you all are there to do that. But yeah, this Dine All Night sounds like a lot of fun, and we hope that folks will just run out and prove that we got some great restaurants in DC, despite what other folks have to say.
Absolutely. So we are looking forward to seeing not only our district residents, people visiting in town. Come on to Dine All Night. Come on out to Art All Night, September 27th and 28th. It's going to be unlike anything you've ever seen anywhere else. I guarantee that.
All right. That's a promise. And I know you'll keep it.
I will.
All right. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. And Dine All Night. I'm hungry now. Chevry, Jaman, we're hungry now. It's it's a little too early for Dine All Night, but it's something we can think about later on. So I want to thank all of you, our amazing guests who were with us today. Charles Kwesi, I think I said that right. Neblett, Aswad Thomas, and Rosemary Suggs Evans for joining us on this episode of Let's Talk. It's been an inspiring conversation. I hope that you feel the same way and that it was enough for you to say, I want to keep watching every Friday from noon to 1. Again, I appreciate you all being here. Have a wonderful weekend. We have finally reached the end of summer. We are officially now in fall, but for those that have those white pants, I understand you don't have to stop wearing them. So I'm not the fashion guru. I'm just trying to share something that I've heard. So it's fall, but hey, do your thing. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to encourage our listeners to get involved with these important causes and events that we've talked about and happening in our community. Let's come together and make a positive impact and support one another. So I want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Let's Talk.